Hello, today we're going to be talking about decimal addition and subtraction. And to get us started, I'd like you to take a look at this problem and tell me what's wrong with it. Now, at first glance, you might look at that and think, well, that's right. 6 plus 2 is 8 and 7 plus 0 is 7. But did you notice anything that might be in the wrong place? What happens if I line the problem up like this? Do I get a different answer? I do get a different answer. What's the difference between the first problem and the second problem? Well, the difference is, in the first problem, the decimal points are not lined up, and I don't have the same number of digits that I have in the second problem. So if you'll notice in the second problem, I made sure to line up my decimal points, and I made sure to line up each of my digits in the correct column, and then any spot where there was not a digit, I placed a 0. And that totally changed my answer because 78 cents and 96 cents are not the same. Of course, the one on the right is the correct answer. So anytime we are adding or subtracting decimal points, or decimals, you need to remember that you always line up the decimal points. Make sure that all of your digits are in the correct columns, and then you can add and subtract. So let's take a look at this first problem. We have 2 and 63 hundredths plus 3 and 5 tenths. We're going to make a T-chart, and we're going to place those decimals in the T-chart. And you'll notice when I do this that I have what is called a hole, or a spot without a digit. And what we're going to do in this case is we're going to put a 0 there, as you see in red, and then we can go ahead and do our addition just like we normally would, and regroup just like we normally would, except the only difference is I've got to make sure that I bring down that decimal point in the same place where we started. So I end up with an answer of 6 and 13 hundredths. So let's take a look at this next one. We have 7 and 3 tenths minus 4 and 12 hundredths. Again, I'm going to use a T-chart because that helps me organize my numbers. I'm going to place both of those in the T-chart, and notice once again that I have a hole right above that 2. So I'm going to place a 0 there, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my subtraction just like I normally would. So you will regroup just like you always do, cross out my numbers and make a 10 and so on. So I've got all my regrouping done, and then I'm going to go ahead and subtract. So with that problem, I get an answer of 3 and 18 hundredths. Let's take a look at another one. We have 36 and 9 tenths minus 4 and 3 tenths. Again, I'm going to place this in a T-chart. I'm going to line up my digits, and I don't have any, well, I do have an empty spot, so if you so choose, you can put a 0 there. And go ahead and start your subtraction just like you normally would. And you would end up with an answer of 32 and 6 tenths. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We have 8 and 1 tenth minus 7 and 3 tenths. I've got my T-chart. I'm going to place them in the T-chart. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my subtraction with my regrouping. And you'll notice that I got just 8 tenths. There's no whole number there. You can place a 0 in that spot if you'd like. You could say it was 0 and 8 tenths. And we'll move on to the next problem. So I'll go ahead and stick a 0 there. Okay, 73 plus 4 and 3 tenths. Make my T-chart. Put in my numbers. Oh, I have a hole, don't I? Go ahead and put my 0 in there to hold my spot. Go ahead and do my addition. Boom, I'm finished. 77 and 3 tenths would be my answer for that problem. Let's take a look at this one. Ooh, this one looks a little different, doesn't it? I've got a whole number and then I've got a decimal. And when I put it in the T-chart, I've got not only one hole, but I've got two holes that I'm going to fill in with zeros. And then I just do my regrouping like I always do. And I end up with 8 and 91/100ths as my answer. So to summarize what we've done in this lesson today, when we add and subtract decimals, you want to make sure that one of the most important things that you do is line up your decimal points and use a T-chart, because I still think that those are the easiest things to use when adding and subtracting decimals, especially until you get the hang of it. And fill in any holes that you have with zeros. So that's going to help you out so that you can keep your columns lined up, so that you don't get any digits in the wrong column and then end up with a wrong answer. Hopefully that all makes sense. Write down any questions that you might have and bring them to class. Thank you for watching.